and it's not fun. It wasn't fun then, but it can be done and it does get easier. Hey guys, what is up? It is Taylor. Great. Love it. Hey guys, what is up? It is Taylor and I'm back with another video, and today's going to be an army video because I asked you all on my Instagram what you all wanted to see, and you guys all requested more ROTC content. And specifically, I had quite a number of people asking for advice on rucking and how to get better on that stuff. So I thought I'd give you guys my advice and what I did to prep for air assault school and things that specifically helped me just being a smaller female. So I thought I'd put together this quick video, just some tips and tricks on things that you can do to prep for the ruck itself, and then also some workouts that you guys can do to help strengthen the muscles that are going to help you to get better at rucking. So let's get started. Oh, and also, by no means am I an expert at this or anything. I'm literally just a cadet going into I'm going to be a senior next year. But if any of you guys know more, which I'm sure there's people watching who are a lot more experienced in this, if you guys have any advice, just drop that in the down below. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm just sharing what I did as a cadet and things that helped me for air assault. So you should have your weight as high as you can on your back. Like I said, this is probably obvious and you've probably been told this, but the lower the weight is, the more pressure it puts on the bottom of your back. So you really want to have your weight high and tight, and as tight to your back as you can, and just make sure it's distributed. One of the mistakes I made actually at air assault school was on our 6 miler, and I put so much weight into my sustainment pouches just to try to get it high and tight. And of course, this is also because at air assault, the ruck's like literally almost like 50 pounds. But I had seen girls putting it really high, and to get all of the stuff we needed on the supply list for the layout, they had put a bunch of it in there and then a bunch in the sustainment pouches instead of like lowering it and evenly distributing it. So my sustainment pouches were super heavy, and it made my 6 miler so miserable. I even had some like cadre members stop and, you know, tell me that I packed my ruck so wrong. And I was just looking at what some of the other girls were doing and telling me to do, and that was a mistake. Do not do that. Don't overload your sustainment pouches, but you do want it as high and tight as possible. What I do when I'm packing my ruck is you put the lightest stuff at the bottom and then the heaviest at the top. So generally it's like your sleeping bag and your clothing, stuff like that at the bottom. And as I get to the top, I have like my Kevlar and I have like my boots right up against your extra boots if you're carrying that, right up against my shoulders. So everything that's the heaviest is really tight on my back. Second tip is to have some really good boots. This for me also was a huge game changer. Is I used to have these, I can actually probably show you guys. I used to always use these Rockies that are pretty common, I'm pretty sure. I don't know what style they are, but they're heavier boot. And I liked those for about a year and a half. And then they started like really cutting into the back of my foot, and they were just really heavy. So I ended up getting a new pair before I went to air assault school. And the best thing you can do is to wear your boots in before you wear them. Never just up and wear your brand new boots on a ruck march. You can get in the shower with them and get them really wet and molded to your feet while you're wearing them. That's a good tip. Also, is I just wore mine around for about like a week or so before I went to air assault school. But I got this new pair that I absolutely love. These are Bellevilles, I think. I might be wrong. Yeah, these are Bellevilles. So, but they're super light boot, and I literally love these. I wore these at air assault school and they were great. I had no issues, and it really made a difference on just rucking and having to pick your feet up was having a lighter boot. The only problem is with lighter boots that I found is like Nikes, or these haven't gone bad on me yet, but they probably will, is the lighter boots wear out faster. But I do like them for longer ruck marches. So you could always have a lighter pair just for rucking, and then, you know, a heavier pair for like daily life. So yeah, that's my tip for that. Okay, so next tip is having good socks and undergarments. For females specifically, sports bras. I found having cotton sports bras allows you to breathe a lot easier and just like absorb the sweat better. So I did that. I had some like older Calvin Klein sports bras. That sounds really bougie, but they were just old, really worn out ones, and I wore those. And I know people who also just get cotton ones at Walmart, and those are great too. And for socks, I have these like thicker socks that are really great. You really want a good pair of thick socks on the bottom so they absorb a lot of your weight and they cushion your feet and protect you from blisters. I've heard of some people like doubling up on socks. I don't know if I'd advise that. If you guys have, if you all know and know something about that, put that in the comments. I don't know if I advise that though, because sometimes that it could cause blisters or make your feet really tight or sweat and not be able to breathe. But I just got some thicker pair of socks. I just wore one pair. Also, toe socks are great. One of my sergeants, he really advises towards getting toe socks, and he's very knowledgeable, so I'd say get some military toe socks. So my next tip, and this is by far and away the hardest thing for me to do, and I know a lot of smaller females also deal with this problem, and even males who are shorter, is not running. Running is really bad for when you're rucking, because it obviously is bouncing the weight on your back and it's putting a bunch of your weight on your lower back and on your shins and stuff. I've always struggled with this because males who are taller and bigger, they can just stride it out. And for me, striding it out like that to keep up with them at that pace is so hard, and it really hurts my hip flexors. But I knew going into air assault, I was gonna have to get better at that, because being able to running a whole 12 miles is gonna be terrible, really bad. Okay, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys and say that I didn't run an air assault. I didn't run. I did this thing called airborne shuffle, and it's kind of just where you're not sprinting, but you are shuffling your feet and kind of like, I don't know how to explain it without showing you guys, but if you look up on the internet, airborne shuffle, that's been a lifesaver for me, and that's basically what I do on a lot of the longer rucks, just because I will walk and then I fall behind. So I airborne shuffle for about, like, if I have my Apple Watch, then I can track distance, and I would do it for about 0.25 of a mile or 0.2 of a mile, and then I would walk and stride it out for about 0.3, 0.35, and I would do that for like half mile increments just so I could get ahead. I'd fall back a little bit and I'd catch back up. And another huge thing is going up hills. When you're going up hills, make sure to you don't want to bend over too much, because you're gonna be putting the weight on your shoulders and it's just not gonna be great. But you do want to step forward and put your heels down first and take bigger steps, lunging almost up the hill. So that's what I did, because you could really lose a lot of time going up those hills if you guys have hills. Going down the hills, I use the momentum, gravity, just take me down the hill, and I would almost fly down those hills. So that's what I did to try to make up time, is I would fly down the hills to make up the time that I lost struggling going up the hills. The next thing, and this one's probably pretty obvious, drink water and eat snacks. Eating for me is kind of hard when I'm rucking, because that's the last thing I want to do is eat. I feel like vomiting half the time, so I don't want to eat, but I go ahead and drink a lot of water. And if you guys can get those electrolyte packets, put them in your water, chug some of them. Do that, because staying hydrated, you can literally just fail a ruck just because you're dehydrated. Not eating stuff like high in sugars, but not like fattening, but instant sugars is also really good. And my last tip for rucking is to just not think about the ruck. I mean, that's gonna sound really weird, but if you're constantly thinking about how much this sucks, you're gonna do worse. Like, half of just doing a long ruck is all mental, because you're sitting there by yourself, and if like air assault, you don't even have music. You're literally rucking in the dark in the middle of the night, and it really sucks. But if you're sitting there thinking about how much it sucks, then it's just going to be worse on you. And you have about, 3 hours of this. So the last thing you want to do is mentally get into your mind that everything's terrible. So I just try to put my mind somewhere else, somewhere motivating or somewhere nice. I know constantly through air assault, when I was dying, I would just constantly think about how this sounds bad, how disappointed my cadre would be and my dad and everyone if I failed. So, and I'm sure they would have been understanding, but they would have been disappointed. And I just kept thinking about that. And then that was my motivation to not quit, is to not disappoint people and not disappoint myself. So, and then my last tip for doing rucks, especially longer ruck marches, that it has helped me personally and what I did at air assault, was I tried to get done my first 3 miles or so almost as quick as I could, not exerting all of my energy, but I did my first 3 miles or so at about a 10:30 pace. And I did that on purpose, because I know for me, as I get tired and go on, I'm gonna fall back. So I knew if I didn't put out more energy to get caught up in the beginning, I wasn't gonna make the time. So that's why those first 3 miles, I was really just trying to hit a 10:30 pace, keep it under 12 minutes for sure. Just so at those last 3 miles, which are the absolute worst on 12 mile, is once you hit that 9 mile mark and you're like, I still have 3 miles to go. But it's absolutely terrible at that point, and you feel like you're about to die, at least going at that speed, which obviously some of you guys, this is probably a joke to you, but it was pretty hard for me. And at the end, I finished with like 10 minutes to spare, I think, on the 3-mile time at Aerosol. For the 12 miles, I think I finished like 2 hours and 50 minutes. But those last 3 miles, I was keeping pace at like a 14:30. Like I almost had fallen back to that 15-minute like paceman time, and I was like, can't have this. So I was really just pushing out all the energy I had. Okay, here are some workouts. I'm gonna give you guys just a few different workouts you can do. You can mix them up, do them together. Obviously, anything that trains legs and back are really good for rucking, obviously, because a lot of it's your quads and your thighs and your glutes and stuff. So that's for sure stuff you want to be training. I was doing a ton of running before I went to Aerosol. I was running 4 miles at least like twice a week, and then running smaller distances in between there, but also working in a ton of weight training and squats. So one of the first workouts that you can do that's a really good one is do this, repeat it 4 to 5 times. Run 1 mile at your goal pace, 6 to 8 minutes or whatever you do, without a rucksack. And then you can do squats and lunges, do like 30 or 20 of each. You don't have to do this with weight, obviously, because you're doing more repetitions than weight. And then legs, you can do heel raises with your calves. So the next workout you guys can do, and this one's really great and easier to do, is biking long distances. I personally haven't done this, but I have heard of people doing this. Biking a further distance and using hills and inclines, obviously it works your legs, so that's a really good workout. And then the last thing I would say that's really good for working out with trying to get better at ruck marches, and this is what I did to get better besides running, was just rucking. I know that's obvious, but you should just, the more you ruck, the better you get at it. When I first started rucking, I wasn't that great at it, and it really sucked. It still sucks, I'm not gonna lie, and it's not fun. It wasn't fun then, but it can be done, and it does get easier, and I've seen that from myself. Like last year, I just started, before I went to Aerosol, that spring semester of my sophomore year, we were doing ruck marches every week. Every Friday morning, we'd get up. We started with like 2 miles or something easy. We went 4, 6, 8, 10, and then we finally had the 12-mile ruck march. And so we worked our way up into it, and I was only like MS2 going with the 3s to do the ruck marches. But if you guys are younger and you have the opportunity to join the older kids in the ruck marches, I would strongly advise doing that, because the only thing that's going to get you better is rucking. And when you're doing those rucks, I try to pick someone that I know is like gonna do the time that I want, and I stay with them, and I just keep my mind on that person. If they fall back, I pick another person, but I just make sure I don't lose someone in front of me, which is really good motivation to just stay there. It keeps your mind off of things, especially rucking with someone. If you can ruck with someone and you're still able to talk and all that, that's great. Like, keeps your mind off of things. And last year when I did we had to do a 6-miler before I trained for Aerosol. I had to do the 6 and like the 12, but I did the other ruck marches too. But I had to do a 6 and 12 to like qualify me to go and meet those time requirements. That 6-mile was really hard for me. I have no idea why, and so was that 12-mile. And then a year later, after like Aerosol and all of that, which was even harder because it's a heavier weight than what we train in ROTC, is a year later, like this past semester in like my MS3 year, this past semester we did a 6-miler, and I did the whole thing, just talking the whole time, met the time requirements. It was literally such a breeze. And I just remember thinking how crazy that was, of how hard rucking that was a year before that to a year later, and how much improvement I had made. And so it's really just doing it and getting out there and doing it. And if you can ruck with more weight than what's required, also advise that, because then not too much, but you know, a little bit over, then you're gonna get better, because then when you go to advanced camp or whatever, it's 35 pounds, then you've been rucking with 45. What's 35? It's not that hard. So yeah, I hope this answered y'all's questions or gave you guys some good advice on rucking. If you guys have any more questions or want to see any other videos, make sure to let me know in the down below, and give this video a thumbs up, and I'm gonna leave all of my social media in the down below, so make sure to check that out. I love you guys. Stay safe. Peace. Love you. Bye.